Hi, welcome to Power Surge, Empowering Stories with Dr. K. And today we have a special guest. So, dear friend of mine, we've been friends for about, oh gosh, I think about 10 years now. And we met at we met at a person's seminar that was teaching us how to get in touch with ourselves and mind control and all of those wonderful things. And I've admired her from the beginning because she has complete and control total control over her thoughts and the ways that she does things, and she has succeeded and succeeded and succeeded at so many things. And yeah, she'll tell you that some of them succeeded to not succeeding, but most of them succeeded and succeeded, and right now she's in the process of one of her best successes ever. But Holly has done everything from being a hairstylist to a realtor to part of the I think she was the mayor was of a city, and she has done more things in her lifetime than I can even imagine. And the thing that inspires me the most about her is that she always looks for the learning experience in it and the growth, and she is continually growing. That being said, I am so excited to welcome my favorite person, Holly Porter, to the show. Hey, Holly,
Hi,
welcome,
Karen.
welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on the show. And you know, I just adore you and everything
Oh,
about
same.
you. I I would love it if you would tell us a little bit about your background, but especially about I know that you got really sick during the pandemic and ended up in the hospital and had some interesting experiences there. Would you be willing to talk about that a little bit today?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. You can stop me and interrupt me anytime too, because sometimes I get off and sometimes my story jumps around a little bit because there's a lot of details to it. But I was definitely one of the lucky ones. I think I'm a walking miracle. We all suffered from COVID, the whole world. There's nothing I can think of that's ever happened in the history of the planet as COVID, right? That everybody was affected. My story is, though, that I was one of the miracle people that got to live when I was in the situation I was, which was a 70-day hospital stay. And I was not only intubated one time, but twice, and then finished with a trach. But I also got sepsis and a couple other life-threatening infections that I can't pronounce while I was in there. Any one of those, any day, any time, any minute could have taken me out. And I think the mindset definitely is why I'm here, other than God wasn't finished with me either. So
Yeah.
you just ask me whatever you want to know. I'm an open book and I have nothing to hide at this point.
Well, I understand that you had several brushes with death. We had a near death experience, right?
I did.
And then you had a spiritual transformation experience as well as an out of body experience, correct?
Lots of out of body, one
Oh,
spiritual.
wow. Well,
Yeah,
there is so much there that I want to know and just to pick your brain on and just to have you share with us. Would you be willing to let us do two series with you and do the near death experience first and then have you come back and do the out of body and the spiritual transformation?
sure. Yeah, happy to.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's talk about the near death experience. Tell us about, I know you were in a coma and all kinds of things happened.
Yeah. Well, so if you had COVID very bad, most people got it good. Um, the COVID fog's real. Like if you know, you know. And
Yeah.
and so there's still like there's so many things that are very clear to me, and then other things that aren't as clear. And because I'm in the process of finishing a book about everything, I I wanted to be really clear on the NDE. So um, that particular experience, there were gaps missing. I had the spiritual transformation crystal clear, out of body, lots of them, but lots of them crystal clear. And this one, I just thought, gosh, out of integrity for my book, I want to have the story right, you know. And so I asked my friend, and you know him, AJ. He
Yeah.
had certified me years before for hypnosis, and I just woke up one morning, intuitively went, call AJ. I wonder if he would do a hypnosis session on my NDE to fill in some gaps. Best thing I ever did was do that. I mean, it changed and put me in a happier place, knowing that some of the things that I didn't remember and then things that I did. So I want to share definitely that story, because there's so many miracles to my story, that like miracles happen every day. So if you need some hope, just know that we see them all the time. And for me, and I'll just share, like, I'll drop them as I think of them, okay? Because that's how my brain thinks. But like, I never
Yeah.
had insurance my whole life, medical insurance. And
Wow.
2 months before I got sick, I got it. And my bill was over $1 million. That was a miracle. Like the fact that I didn't have this big, huge, devastating
Yeah.
medical bill that costs more than a house, most of them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so there was that. And then when I got out of the hospital, I was able to purchase a hyperbaric. That's an oxygen chamber, and it's not a hard chamber; it's a soft chamber, like, so a tent that gets really hard when it pressurizes.
Yeah.
And I ended up with pulmonary fibrosis from COVID. So it saved my lungs. And I'm on my 3rd year and my lungs haven't gotten worse. So I know that was a miracle, because with pulmonary fibrosis, usually it gives you a 2 to 4 year lifespan. So that was a miracle. Just little things like this that happened along the way, the people that have showed up, the help that showed up. I had a really mean nurse. I say mean. She probably saved my life, because she came and gave me the talking to in between the first and the second intubation, and said, excuse me, she said, your sisters told me that you're a speaker. You've spoke all over the world. You talk about your mind. You talk about hard things. And I'm sitting there half dead listening to her. Literally, they just take me off the ventilator, left me off for about 24 hours. I just couldn't
Hmm.
get it up. And my oxygen, I mean. And she's just said, this is a mind game. This is all in your head. You know, really, I'm almost dying, but it's in my head. I think it's in my body. But
Like,
the point is,
I'm pretty sure that it's in my lungs a little bit.
I'm sick, okay? Anyway, it was just like that push, and I did have to get revented, but it was mostly because I couldn't get my oxygen. I remember just telling my mind. I remember her hearing her words and saying, okay, just do this, just breathe. And oh, the anxiety. I'd never had anxiety or depression, or PTSD. And you get them all when you're in that kind of a circumstance. And the nurses would ask my sisters who were there, because by the way, my husband was home with COVID that I brought home to him, and he couldn't come see me for 3.5 weeks while I was in there, the first 3.5 weeks, which was when I had all these experiences. That's when I was the very worst. So
Wow.
it was kind of a tearful, joyful day when he could come see me, and he only could stay for a couple hours because he was so weak. So that was happening. So my sisters would be there 24-hour shifts with me, and they knew intuitively in the beginning that I needed that. They'd let one person stay, which was a miracle, because a lot of people didn't get anybody at the hospital. So one
Right.
person, 24 hours, and they would bring cookies to the nurses. They were so good to them that everybody loved. I mean, they snuck Scott in. They didn't even have to have him as a 24-hour shift. They could sneak him in because
Yeah.
they want to kiss up to him, right? And I think it
Yeah.
helped keep them more accountable. I had great care, but I think just having an extra set of eyes on your health was important, because when you have a ventilator in you, they tie your hands to the bed so you won't pull it out. So at one point, I say I lost all 5 senses because I couldn't taste and smell because of COVID. The ventilator took away 90% of my hearing for some reason. So it sounded like the teacher on the Charlie Brown, wah, wah, wah. That's what I heard people as. And then I'm way past legally blind. So unless you're about 8 inches in front of me, I couldn't tell who anyone was. And all I could really see was your eyes, because they had a mask. They had the yellow mask, yellow cape thing on, and a hat thing. So all you'd really see is a little bit of hair and eyes. I mean, a lot of times they all look the same to me, right? And
Yeah.
so you're dealing with that. And then my hands are tied to the bed. So that took away my touch.
Oh, wow.
It was just like, so they put me in an induced coma. I think I was ended up being, I can't remember how many days. I want to say I was on a ventilator for 52 days, counting the trach too. And the trach, you're still on a ventilator. It just goes from down your throat to in your throat.
Yeah.
I was on a feeding tube for 62 of the 70 days. So like you have, when you lay in a bed that long, you lose control of everything, right? I had to learn
Yeah.
first and then swallow and then talk. The therapy was outrageous what I had to do. And then, sit up and then stand up and then walk. They had me standing up while I was on a ventilator. I mean, they don't waste any time. That physical therapy, I hate it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it was the worst because I didn't even have energy. I couldn't pick up my phone. I don't remember how many weeks I didn't have energy to hold my phone, but I always wanted to know where it was. They said, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm a realtor. Of course I do.
I gotta know where it is. Come on.
So sorry, I'm giving you a lot of backstory of leading up to
Oh,
what it was
I
like and what was happening.
I love that. I want to though, and I'm typing on my computer as we do this, so forgive me.
That's right.
Um, I want to add the name of your book, and it's Retreat Forward, from NDE to CEO, right?
Correct. My journey from
Oh, my
NDE to
journey.
CEO.
Yeah, okay, I didn't get that. So let me just write this in. Retreat Forward, duh, comma, my journey
From
from
NDE
NDE
to CEO.
to CEO. Okay, I'm just going to put that up real quick because I want everybody to keep this in mind. It's not quite yet out, but it will be out here really soon. And when it is, you all want to go and, oh, I should have capitalized my journey.
That's
All
okay.
right, deal with it, folks. That was the way I
It's
typed
all
my
good.
journey. So, Retreat Forward, My Journey from NDE to CEO by Holly Porter. And I'll tell you what, everything Holly does is smashingly spectacular, including being sick for 70 days.
I'm good. I'm
that
getting
was
that.
that was long.
It was a
Um,
long time.
I
I had
mean,
no idea. I remember a month had gone by, and I remember one of my sisters asked me if I knew what day it was, like what month it was.
yeah,
I just told her September, and it was like well into October. I mean, a month had gone by and I didn't even know. So, but they had me in an induced coma, sometimes a paralyzed coma, a lot. Um, I remember I, I remember there was dings, always dings, but there was a certain thing, and I remember asking something about it bugged me. I don't know if it put me into an out of body weird place because I went a lot of weird places, but I remember they said, "Oh, it was." I think it was like Twilight drug or something. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I remember her saying that early in the morning when that dings, it's giving you this Twilight drug or something that would
oh wow,
kind of keep you calm and whatever, right? And I said I didn't like it. So then they didn't give it to me, and then I was like crazy because it probably I had anxiety so bad. The nurses asked my sisters both on separate occasions, like, "Are you sure she wasn't on anxiety medicine? Because it's really bad." And I thought about it later, and I thought, well, let me take your oxygen away from you, and let's see how you act.
yeah, no
Think
doubt.
about it. You're fighting for your breath to
Well,
breathe.
yeah, when you can't breathe, that's like,
Yeah.
I mean, your every breath is suffocation, and
Yeah.
you're preventing yourself from that, and that in itself had to feel like death.
Well, when I got to the hospital, my oxygen was 63. 100's perfect, right? So it was
Wow.
63. Scott said he pulled around. He was so sick. I don't even know how he got us there. I woke him up after a week of fighting COVID at the house. Well, RV. We were living in an RV waiting for our house to close. It was a whole nother story. But I just woke him up and I said, I'm in trouble. We've got to go to the ER now. We didn't even think about calling paramedics because we were like, we don't want to give it to anybody. Everybody had just been dropping
Yeah.
off food on our steps to eat for the week, whatever. I mean, we were half dead in there. And he got us there safely. He dropped me off in the front. And he said by the time he parked and came back in, they already had me in the ICU that quick. So they knew it was really serious. I had like 3 levels of oxygen until they had a high flow 10 on me. And anyway, that's where I stayed. But he couldn't even come up because he had COVID. So he like that was the last time I saw him for like 3.5 weeks. So which obviously I didn't even know that time because a month went by and I didn't know when it was. But
Yeah.
yeah, so many crazy things that you know go through. But when I looked at my records and compared some texts and Facebook posts and things like that, I kind of got my timeline. So I knew that all these experiences happened the first 3 weeks when I had that all that going
Yeah.
on. The near death happened specifically in between the first and the second intubation, is when I told the story. So I knew it happened when I was intubated the first time, which was probably when I was the most worse, right?
Yeah.
And then a cousin had sent a text, which I'll tell you in the next episode on the out of body, which created my spiritual transformational experience. That would have been in during that first intubation as well, because that's when I was the worst. Yeah, but yeah, it's just some crazy experiences. So
Well,
the leading, oh, sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I was going to say, I want to hear about the NDE, but leading
Yeah,
up to that, go ahead. I didn't mean to
yeah.
interrupt you.
So leading up to the NDE, so I traveled, and I can tell you more of that in the next episode for the out of body. But when I traveled in my out of body, I always had my bed with me. One of my chapters is called "Me in My Bed," because it was like I was in a Connex storage crate. That was my room, right? Because I said I never left the room. You had your
Yeah.
surgeries in here. Everything was in your room. And I said, oh, I went everywhere. So there was an ambulance that would come and pull up every morning, I guess, and hook up to my room. And it would take me usually to Parowan, Utah. Don't ask me why. And that's where I would go. And then it would bring me back. So why that happened, I don't know why that happened. But my bed always went with me everywhere I went. Not always in the ambulance hooking up, but I think thinking back later, that would happen because if I didn't take my bed, then I didn't take my body, and if I didn't take my body, I might not get it back. That's the theory I'm thinking right now. Looking back, that's probably was how I justified taking my bed with me. So I
So this
went.
is all part of the experience. This is not literally what happened. It's part of the
Oh
experience.
yeah, my sister just
Okay.
laughed and said, "You never left this room," and I go, "Yes, I did."
Yeah.
But I
You're
know I
like
did.
every day I did.
So in the NDE, I left with others in their bed this time. And so leading up to the NDE happening, we left and we went to this huge, like a Delta Center is what I call it, just because that's what I could think of when I was explaining it. But this huge, like a football stadium, huge place. We were going there, and because we were in beds, we got the box offices that were up in the ritzy part,
Yeah.
because we were in beds. Well, looking back now, kind of weird and a little morbid to think of, but I think all those other people going in the beds with me were the people dying, because there was tons of people. Half the people that were in there were dying. And I had a friend that I just saw about a year ago, and her husband, they followed my story, and she introduced me to him while we were there. And he said, she goes, "This was my friend that was so bad. Remember?" He goes, "Yeah." And then he said, "Can I tell you something?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I was delivering medical supplies to the hospital all the time during that. And I can't tell you how many body bags we took there." And he said, "I remember when his wife was telling him about me, he said, I remember dropping off body bags that day thinking I was praying for you that you wouldn't be coming out in one." I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
thank you." Yeah,
wow.
I didn't even know this guy. And I thought, I mean, I had so many strangers
Wow.
praying for me, but it was just that's surreal, right? So I think the other people in the beds getting the box office were people dying, because that was my journey to the near death experience. So then I jumped into the near death experience. But I have to pause the story there, because when I had my friend AJ do my hypnosis session, okay, there were gaps missing in the story. So I really wanted to be out of integrity and feel like, can I remember those? And I just can't remember those, right? Because of the COVID
Right.
fog, like what? And so now, because that part of the journey was filled in the before. So from getting into the stadium, then I was in this near death that I remembered. But he took me to before that, like that, in the in between. And it's funny that I just say in between, because Where I ended up in the beginning of the hypnosis session was what I do call the in between. It wasn't dark and it wasn't light. The right side was dark and the light side was, the left side was light. And I was in there and there was all this matter that kept swirling around, all these wild colors that you can't even explain, but not bright because it was the in between. So think of grays and sapphires and your black and, you know, anything that doesn't make it dark, but it just colors you can't even
Yeah.
explain. But they would all swarm together and they would form into a heart, and then they would go to the left, which was the light. And I thought, well, that makes sense. Everybody wants to be over there. I want to be over there. Why am I here? Right? It's kind of
Right.
like all the thoughts going through. So the first thing I noticed was that. The second thing, I looked to my right and I looked up, and it was over on a far distance, but on the right side. And it was a one eye on a mountain. You think about it, even our money, our dollar has a pyramid mountain with one
Yeah.
eye. So I was like, that's weird. Noted. Right. I saw it a couple times. It was just interesting that it was on the dark side of where I was. So I don't know what the significance of that is. And I'll tell you more in a minute of why I don't know that. But then I came and I look in front of me and there's this tree. And I was like, oh, my whole body just melted, because when I was in my coma, I was told I had a software company that I'm working on. Okay. It's a retreat leader tech company. I've had 11 companies, but I've never had a tech company. So it's been like learning a new language. Well, it was just in the
Right.
beginning stages. I pitched a group to partner with on it the day I found out I had COVID. And they had a billionaire backing them. So I knew money wasn't an issue. But when I was in my coma, I was told not to partner with them. It would take me longer, but don't partner with them. It's not the right thing to do. So it has taken me longer, by the way. And I listened and I didn't partner with them. I incorporated on my
Right.
own, moved forward. Well, when we were branding the company, 3 months out of my hospital stay, we started working on all that. I said intuitively, I knew the logo needed to have a tree. And
Yeah.
I was like, they created it for me. Nobody questioned it. It was my company. So they brought me back
Right.
this logo, and the logo had 11 leaves and 11 roots in part of the logo, which is 1111. And by the way,
Yeah.
my birthday's 11. So it was just some crazy synchronicities that when I saw this tree in the hypnosis session, I thought I created the logo to this company that I know I'm supposed to be doing, right? Not knowing that tree's right there. And it wasn't the same tree. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be weird.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same tree. It's just the fact that subconsciously I didn't remember that piece of the NDE, but I created a logo to my, big
Yeah.
company, and not knowing
So
that. So that was,
it was there somewhere, just not in the
yeah.
forefront of your memory. Yeah.
And the hypnosis. And when you're hypnotized, you know this, Karen, but maybe your audience doesn't. When you can get out of it anytime. You can open your eyes. You don't have to be there. But I didn't want to, because I wanted this information. Like, I specifically
Right.
asked for it. I wasn't scared. I didn't want to be there. I mean, I wanted to be there. So I was like, oh, give me more, like, show me more. So then there's a whole icky part of the story, but let's not go there. Let's go to the good stuff. So then I go over to the light side, and remember all those swirls and that we're making hearts that were like the in-between colors. When I
Yeah.
get to the light side, they were doing it over there, but they turned like this rose quartz, like pearly, like rose quartz color
Yeah.
would make hearts. And I was like, my nonprofit that I was told to do in my coma and start, it wasn't even started. It wasn't even a concept. It serves long COVID, which we didn't
Yeah.
even know what it was called back then, right? I didn't even know I was going to have it back then because I was surviving COVID. But I was told to start this nonprofit, was given the name. And when we had our first fundraiser gala, I made these wood ornament, because it was in November, ornament round hearts, or not hearts, round wooden ornaments that said hope in the middle of them. And in the bag I put them in, I just knew instinctively that they all needed to have this rose quartz heart, the little ones you can get.
Yeah.
A rose quartz heart. And again, it was like the tree. I was like, I did that again, not remembering. So the two things that came out of my coma that I was told to do, that was just like such a green light for me. It was like, you're doing it, keep going. It every time I think about it, I think about, you have a hard day. We all have hard days, especially when we're building a business, especially when we're entrepreneurs. We have hard things we have to deal with. We have hard days. I go back to that and I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going, And so that's what it told me. And so that was that. And then we end up in a life review. And my life review was all good. And it's not because I didn't do anything bad. Trust me, I did. But this is what I think. I think the reason all I could see was the good was because I had dealt with a lot of crap. And at the time, I don't think emotionally I could have handled seeing bad. I feel like I just needed that confirmation of doing good.
You needed the reinforcement that you've
Yeah,
done your best. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I feel. And because it's there, trust me, it's there. But the other thing that AJ told me that I already knew, that's what was weird. Like, I have always had the gift of knowing. And if you know, you know what I mean. If you know, you know, you know.
Yeah.
And people will ask you, wait, how do you know that? I just do. I don't know. I just know. So that got intensified
This
a lot.
the psychic term is claircognizant. Yeah.
Very good. Yes.
So
Yes.
you've got a psychic gift that you didn't know you had.
Right. And
Well, you
I
did
don't want
know.
to say
You
I
did.
was there. People have, when I say I'm not psychic, I don't think I am, but I do have a lot of those kinds of gifts. So and the things that would happen, it just came around. But I feel like that I would always want to know stuff. If there was a surprise and I knew there was a surprise coming and I didn't know what it was, like if it was a gift, my husband will do it on
Hmm.
purpose sometimes just to drive me crazy because he knows it does. He'll like be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna love this. I have something coming for you that you're gonna love." Oh, I don't like that. I want to know, right? But if you just like it shows up and it's a surprise, it's wonderful. But that's just how I
Right.
am, right? So not knowing, so AJ says to me, there is more to all of this that will be revealed to you when the time is right. And I so knew that. Like I was at peace with that. I still am. I don't think I can handle everything that I really am going to know. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like there is so much more, and it's not the anticipation doesn't bugger me. I'm at peace because I don't think I could handle it. It'll be a lot, and I already have a lot,
Yeah.
right? And I think, okay, that's okay. I'm all right with that. So, like again, I maybe saw my bad stuff, but it wasn't revealed to me. So then it brings me to the part where I remembered now, like all that stuff. After I get over to the light side, that's where it started going from the bed to the big stadium.
To
Because
the
what I
arena.
did,
Yeah.
yeah. So then I'm there, and just within a couple months after that, he brings me out of the hypnosis session, which kind of stunk because I wanted to relive that awesomeness, that I was in, because in what I remembered was all of the light, right? So the
Right.
stadium. So this is what was strange is I didn't know that there was these three separate out of body near death spiritual transformation. I didn't know they were
Yeah. I
different.
only knew there was near body experience or
Yeah.
near death experience is the only one I ever knew of.
I didn't know till like a year ago. I went to, not even a year ago, I went to a conference that's International Association of Near Death Studies. So you have all hundreds, probably thousands for all I know, people attending this conference, all these people that are telling their stories and speaking and all that. Anyway, that's how I started finding out about things. And I was really glad that I didn't hear for at least a year after I got out of the hospital. I didn't like look up near death. I didn't watch a video. I didn't go to YouTube, nothing. And I'm glad I didn't, because I think it would have tainted what I felt, what I knew, because there was some missing pieces and I didn't want to film in with someone else's story. I wanted my story,
Right.
right? So
Right.
I'm really grateful that I didn't do that. And I didn't listen to a lot of them. I still haven't listened to a lot, but more than ever, right? Because it matters to
Right.
me. It's just interesting how there's synchronicities and things that cross over. And I can, on our next show, we'll talk more about like the out of body things and things that people, yeah, spiritual stuff anyway, that they do. But the near death, when I end up in the light, I was in the stadium. And these are the things I was saying to my sisters when I came back. And it's interesting because I don't think they clued in. I don't think they really got what was really happening. I don't know why. I need to ask them because I don't think they did, because it took me a while to put the pieces together, because this is what I'm saying. And now it's common sense, right? But at the time I had so
Right.
much going on. I came back and I said, no, I was in this concert. Get the newspaper. I don't know why I'd say that, but nobody reads them anymore. But get the newspaper. It's in there. It's the biggest event you've ever seen. And I said, and the lights were so bright. It was like this huge stadium. It was a concert, is what I was calling it. And I said, it was the best music. And I knew the words to every song. And they sounded like angels. And I'm saying all these things later, listening, going, okay, duh. Like, why
It
can't
was
I?
angels, and
And now I'm like, I remember some other things I said. Like I said, people were so, I think I said they were high on the music or something. They were floating around. Well, put the pieces together, what I'm saying, right? What I'm thinking it was and what it was. They're floating around
right.
because they were floating around. They're singing and they sound like angels because they were angels. and and uh and there was conversations going on everywhere that were like lightning speed. You looked at someone, no one talked. You looked at someone and you had a full-on conversation. You had your answers. You had everything you needed to know instantly. It was just like, which I love because I have lots of energy and I think that way. So I love when people can track what I'm saying, right? But that was that. So when I came back, I'm laying there, I'm intubated. I don't know how much space went between then and being extubated. I'm not sure of that time frame, but my sister Jill was with me. And at the time, I could barely lift my hand, right? Well, I had it tied to the bed, but they would loosen it if I needed to point at an alphabet. That's how I spelled things out. And sometimes it would take hours to say a word. And I remember just being exhausted, like, and almost like going, never mind. It's not worth communicating if it's going to take,
It's like
you know,
it
2 hours.
doesn't matter that bad.
Right? It's like, just put me back in a coma, wake me up when it's over.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jill said she gets the alphabet out and I spelled out kid. And she's like, oh, your kids? And I was like, no, that's not it. She's like, do you need me to tell your kids something? She's like, no, then you kept spelling and you spelled KIDNAP. She realized I'm saying kidnapped. And she's like, she says, I was looking around. I was like, what happened? She probably ran an errand or something, came back, and then I'm saying all this. She goes, right when I realized you said kidnapped, the doctor walked in and he was going to extubate you. And so as soon as he did that, I could talk, but it was really scratchy. But she says, you could talk and you wouldn't stop. You were like, they kidnapped me. I got kidnapped. I was like going off. I think now, I think like nobody does things alone, right? We all have to have help. Well, I think my guide was in training and they needed help. And I think that they took me and they weren't supposed to because there was a fear. But from where I came from, there should be no fear. I mean, technically, I should want to stay there. You think about all the people that
Right.
don't come back. It's probably because they get to choose. Some people get to choose, and that's why you don't see them again.
Yeah.
They choose to stay. But
Well, almost every NDE I've heard that came, obviously they came back or it wouldn't be an NDE, but almost every one of them I've heard, they said when they were given the choice, they kicked and screamed and said, I am not going back. Or when they were told, you have to go back, they're like, I don't want to.
that's my spiritual transformation. And next show, you'll see.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how that happened. That wasn't in my near death. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I came back scared that they were going to take me again because I probably didn't think I was supposed to be there, right? I don't
Yeah.
know what all that thinking is behind that. I just know that's scared her. I saw people in my room that weren't there, but they were for me. And I remember she was like opening the bathroom door. She was opening up the closet, showing me nobody was in there, but they were. And that's okay. I mean, I think I was more scared that they were going to take me again and they weren't supposed to, right? I was supposed to be here
Right.
fighting this through this. And so that's how I know my near death happened before my spiritual transformation. So stay tuned to the next one and we'll talk about that one and why I knew that. But yeah, that was basically that part of it. So What did I miss? I don't know.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm a little curious, and you can say I'd rather not share, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about your life review. And I know you said it was all good because that's what you were needing at the time, but
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more. How did that happen? I mean, did you have a big screen TV and you sat and watched it, or I mean, what, you walked through a field and saw the things you did and felt them? I mean, what happened?
So mine, it was interesting because so mine was just people showing love and hugging, lots and lots of hugging. And one important thing I missed, I came back knowing that everything was about love in the end, right?
Right.
But I needed this other big lesson between when I got home from the hospital up until about maybe a year ago. So, like, over a year and a half, I had this horrific family challenge. And like many days, I wish I would have died because it was, I mean, I've been divorced. I started over 4 times in my life. You know, whatever bad things had happened, this was 10 times that. Like I had no desire to like move forward. I was devastating family stuff right at the heart. And I was like, why do you come out of this experience where you should be like so like everybody should be worshiping you because you survived. There's a reason you're here. Your kids should gravitate to you. And they didn't. They did the exact opposite. And almost, I should, well, a lot of family, a big part of my family, just all these stressed relationships and grandkid issues and DCFS got involved and attorneys. And I mean, anything, I was just like, how does this even happen after what I know I'm supposed to be doing? So like I'm putting pieces together. Again, remember, I won't know everything. It'll be revealed to me at the right time. I feel like this big detour had to be another lesson I had to learn. So I forgot the main message that I really was told in my NDE. And when I did the hypnosis, I got the clarity on it. So when I'm seeing my life review, everyone's hugging. It's like all about love. And I just remember seeing all these groups of people showing love, right? It was just so uplifting and light and love. But I didn't get the message. I mean, I remember the message of love, but I didn't get the message till the hypnosis session. And the message that I heard, oh, which would have helped me so much during this situation, was love them where they're at. So if you love people where they are, it takes the judgment away. Really, it takes all that, like, why are they doing that? Why are they being like that? Why are they being hateful? Why are they, whatever, the whys? If you just love them where they are, it's that unconditional and that peace that comes with it. And I didn't have that peace of mind or peace, period, during that hard time. I look back now that it's been about a year and I look and think, even though I feel like it really destroyed a lot of relationships in my life, they weren't the ones that maybe I needed to progress forward. And God made some of those decisions for me that I was fighting so hard for, especially with grandkids. He made them for me because he knew that I would never stop fighting for grandkids. Never.
Yeah.
I will die for them. Never. And so it ended really badly for my husband and I with a couple of these grandkids. And it also pushed me to know that this software company I'm building, the plan is to build it, scale it, sell it. But it's because I have so much philanthropy and ideas of things I want to create that I just really want to be the check writer for. I don't want to like go and run these businesses. I'm kind of, this is my last one. I'm hoping that I have to actually run. I'm just hoping that that gift and that plan and that thing I was told to do and not partner with the person that had a billionaire backing them, right? Because that wasn't the highest and best thing to do. And now I know why that happened. Like I'm finding out all these things along the way, but that situation has pushed me now to work harder to get that company to where I can get it to the point where now
Right.
I can build, you know, homes for aging out foster boys, and I can make sure that maybe we start a boys home that has the right school in it and hires the right people. And you just say, get the state contract And then what's the difference you need to survive and thrive? And I'll write the check for the difference, right? Things like that. I
Right.
just feel like I had to feel like I had to lose a couple grandkids to realize, like, sacrifice two for maybe 2000. I mean, I don't know what it'll look like. The
Yeah.
ripple effect will be there, but it's interesting how when you're in it, you can't see it. And if I would have had the message, love them where they're at while I was going through that, it would have changed a lot. And I think I wouldn't have got the lesson I needed for now and the motivation to do, even though the outcome sucked. We
Yeah.
have to sometimes deal with a lot of suck to get where we're going.
Well, one of my favorite quotes, my mother said, oh, since I was tiny, and it's kites rise against the wind, which means without adversity, you're not going to soar. You're just not going to fly. But one of the things that you said that really struck my heart was love them where they're at and accept the other people without judgment. But it occurred to me that we don't accept ourselves where we're at, and we don't love ourselves unconditionally, which
Yeah.
leads me to another one of my favorite quotes. And this one's by Maya Angelou. And people, I know if you've known me for more than a year, then you've heard the quote more than a dozen times. But she says, I did what I knew, and when I knew better, I did better.
I love that
And
one.
I like that because I for one beat myself up all the time about something I did last week, last month, last year, 200 years ago, because I am 205. um, I feel that way some days,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I beat myself up over those things, but the fact is I did it and I can't take it away. What I can do is learn from it and do better and not do it again. I can make amends for it, but I can't take it away. I can't change it. It
Yeah,
happened. It happened. And I did what I knew. And when I knew better, I did better.
I
And
love
hopefully I'll know better tomorrow and know better the next day and the next day. And I'll
that.
continue to become a better person um, until the time comes where, I go and,
Yeah.
and then we'll all be, because my understanding is when you get on the other side that it's love. It's pure
Mhm.
love.
It is. Yeah, and I remember laying there in my coma, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next show. But I remember thinking, is this it? Like, was I enough? Did I do enough? What kind of a legacy did I leave? And that changed everything too, coming back. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, get on it. You know what to do, so do it.
Well, and in that, really, what is a legacy? And again, a Karen quote that I got from somebody else. But my younger sister always would say, a legacy is what, no, she start with an inheritance. An inheritance is what you leave for other people. A legacy is what you leave in other people.
Oh, that's good.
And to me, it's like, okay, what is my legacy? What have I changed in someone's life? What have I done to help another person? What have I done to help them grow
Yeah,
and get the things they need and want out of life?
right.
And when you stop and think of it that way, what legacy is, what change have I made? And I know that's one of the things that you were saying. What legacy have I left?
Yeah.
So what legacy do you want to leave?
Well, I feel like the nonprofit is going to help so many. There's the nonprofits for people with long COVID. When I started it 2 years ago, there were 65 million. Then it went to 85. Now it's over 100 million people that are documented with cases, documented. So we know
Oh,
there's more. And I think a lot of
wow.
people are just waking up to realizing that that's where it started from. They're having all these health issues, they're getting cancer. There's lots of more Alzheimer's, dementia coming faster, just catches everything on fire. So I think they're putting two and two together. So to raise awareness, that was a big piece of it. Um, yeah, so that's one. And then the software company is really, that was such a God gift before the coma, to have the idea. And for me, that idea is, it's still not being done. I've been working on it now almost 3 years, and it still doesn't exist. Like, we're creating it. So I
Right.
know it's me that's supposed to do that. I had a tech guy. He said, I looked at it before we got on this conversation, and he said, the first thing that came to my head was, why hasn't anyone done this yet? I said, because it's waiting for me to do it. I think
Yeah.
God gives so many people the same ideas, but people don't know how to take action. And the
Right.
people who take action are the ones that'll make it a success. And trust me, there's been a lot of bumps. There's going to be a lot more bumps along the way. But we're in a big race right now. And I could have never told you my real why. I mean, sure, my family, sure. But like the real why that becomes a calling. I never had that before. I never thought I'd live to be that old. I mean, I'm getting there. and
You're still
nobody
a
knows,
baby.
but nobody
You're a
knows I'm always,
child.
oh, hardly. But we don't know. And I don't want to waste one day. And I want to know that all those people with retreats, that encompasses so many people. They're not going away. A chance to learn and grow and meet new people and travel the world and do good things and teach kindness and love them where they're at, right? I think just knowing that I'm creating something so much bigger, and the fact that it's not been done before lights me up, because I'm an early adopter and I'm on that train, right? And the
Yeah.
easy way would have been to partner with the billionaire backer. But I know that wasn't the right thing to do. Sometimes, unfortunately, because I'm going through so many growing pains right now. But I know that. And when I get to the point where I'm either a big shareholder or I get to sell the company, the good I'm going to do with that money, that's the why. That's the reason that I know that's my calling, is to change so many lives in so many different areas. I that's when I'll partner with so many different other people to just explode everywhere doing what we need to do.
Well, and I like that you're working on retreats, because all of us need to renew ourselves in some fashion or another. And all retreats, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're, I like what you said earlier to me. You're stepping back and looking at things. You're retreating and getting the information, but we need to pull back, see
Yeah.
what's going on around us, and then and only then can we go forward, and then and only then can we make the right connections,
Yeah.
and be it with ourselves or be it with somebody else, or
Sure.
be it with God or the universe or whatever it is that you believe in, the source.
Yeah,
And
it's like Retreat Forward. We were talking about, that's the name of the book. Retreat Forward
yeah.
sounds like it conflicts, but what does a slingshot do? It goes
Yep.
backward to fly, right?
Yep.
What does
You
a
pull it
setback
back.
do? It opens up for a comeback, right? It's always,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go backwards to soar forward. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But I love that you're doing retreats and you're helping people learn how to do retreats. You're helping companies or resorts that want to host retreats and have people come and do them at them, and helping them all connect together.
Yeah.
And I think that is so beautiful. And all of those of you who've heard me pushing my retreat, I love, love, love my retreat. And we're looking forward to the one in 2025 now. And it's it's amazing to me the things that I've learned from your lessons that your company has put out and put together for those of us who are just learning how to do these things.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And the fact that you found your why and you're incorporating it into this is it's awe inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, what else do you want to share with us about your NDE to wrap that up? And I'm getting excited now for the next show. It's like I kind of want to just go through and do a 2-hour show, but that's we all have to get back to work from lunch. I know. Uh, but what can you? How can you wrap this up for us in a nice little neat bow and help us all to make our own personal growth because of the experience that we're having with you?
Yeah. Well, I would say, well, remember the message to love them where they're at, and think about who and how you can do that in your life. Because is there somebody right now that you're judging or that you are angry with? What would it feel like to be at peace with that person? And I mean, forgiveness is a hard thing. I'm still working on it with some of my family members for what happened. It should have never happened, and I know
Right.
there's a reason, and I have to trust that it'll all work out. So that was what I would say is think of that, the love them where they're at, and think of who in your life you could maybe show extra love or kindness to that you don't want to, and do something for them. Like that's the hardest thing, is to serve someone that you can't stand. I remember years ago, Scott's ex-wife, ugh, like she doesn't even bother me anymore now. It's been years, but we were raising a bunch of teenagers and we had custody of their kids and our kids. And I just, oh man, I just did not like that woman. I just, Scott said one time, I could see you guys being friends under different circumstances. And I said, I would never be friends with someone who left her children. Like I fought too hard for my children. And that was a judgment on my part. It was like, was judging. She had her
Yeah.
reasons, right or wrong. It's not my place to figure that out. And once I got past all that, it was just, but I remember I would always give her a Christmas gift. I just would do something nice for her at Christmas. No matter how I felt about her, I mean, she never reciprocated. I didn't care. That's not why I did it. I did it
Right.
to have me feel better because I knew how I really felt about her, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like made me feel a little bit more at peace at the holidays when you're trying to shuffle kids and share kids and
Right.
all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
Well, in we shouldn't do nice things for other people in hopes that they'll do nice things back for us.
right,
I mean,
right.
it's always nice to have nice things done for you,
Yeah,
but those is karma. It will happen, but you just it brings more heart and joy to your life when you just do things for other people, and it doesn't even have to be someone you know.
yeah.
Um, my mom and I were talking about that the other day, and a few years ago we had got her some beds for Christmas because she'd always wanted beds with headboards.
Oh,
And the only way to really make it good is for the guys to set up the beds so that she'd come home and be surprised. But she doesn't leave her house hardly ever. So it was like, okay, what are we going to do? So my sister and I took my mom to breakfast at Black Bear. Uh, and we went to breakfast and we saw people that were there on Christmas morning all alone. Some were just drinking a cup of coffee and some
oh,
had full meals and some, but they were there all alone. And I tell this story not as a oh woe is me or pat on the back, aren't I great, but because of the change it made in my life, my mom's and my sister's life. We all pitched in, and we had the waitress pick these random strangers that were all alone and anonymously pay for their meal
oh,
and tell them Merry Christmas. There are people here to love you.
oh,
And
sweet.
I don't know if it changed any of their lives or not, but it changed our
It did
lives.
that day.
It changed our lives, and I think that was the best part of Christmas I've had ever is doing stuff for other people
Yeah,
with
yeah,
absolutely zero expectation of it being reciprocated.
yeah,
Zero. And because we didn't want them to know who it was from, and so there's nothing they could do to repay us, and that wasn't our, we didn't want repaid, we just wanted to be good.
right.
But listening to my mom talk about it the other day and getting all teary eyed and saying that was the best Christmas gift ever.
Oh,
And then she liked the beds too, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. But just being kind and giving gifts and doing those kinds of things and not out of, uh, and I've said it, I'm rambling now, but not out of expectations. But
sure.
that's something that I've learned from you, um, for years now, is that you are just kind to people. and you treat them with dignity and you treat them with respect, no matter how you feel about them. And that's a good lesson for all of us to learn. So thank you for teaching me that lesson, and thank you for sharing that we need to love them where they're at, so that everybody can look at people with more heart,
Yeah,
more
I love that.
compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're about the top of the hour, so I'm going to just go ahead and say, mwah, I thank you so much for that. And I'm excited for next time. Give us some previews. There's some cool things you're going to tell us about. What are you going to tell us about next time? Or just a hint?
Ooh, let's see. Out of body experience. I'll talk about some time traveling. I didn't go in the future. I went in the past, but it's pretty interesting. Some time
Uh,
traveling in my bed. Um,
and
yeah,
did you
and
get
then
to meet anybody interesting?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Okay,
one particular.
everybody, you got to
Remind
come to the
remind me
next
about the
show.
creepy story. Remind me that, and I'll know exactly what
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
And
Oh,
let's see, the spiritual one. I have a painting that I had commissioned that's 6 foot by 4 foot of my spiritual transformational experience. Probably means nothing to nobody but me. Anybody that needs it.
oh.
But yeah, I'll tell you about that too.
So do you have that painting?
I do. It's turned around right now on the taken down on the floor because it's so big, and I have my house up for
Yeah.
sale, and that's not something you want people see.
Yeah. We'll have to take a picture of it and put it in the comments
Oh,
after the
sure,
show.
happy to. Yeah, I don't care if people
After
see
the
it. I'm
show.
just saying I'm a realtor. You don't have house pictures of your
Well,
you're
yeah, no,
selling.
you don't do that, because you got to minimize. Okay, anybody selling a house, you got to minimize the things that are in the house so people can imagine their
Yeah.
things in the house instead.
Well,
Um,
and yeah, and have
you don't want too
well,
much personal stuff in
some of the
there.
people
Yeah,
that are in the painting aren't here anymore. So it's just anyway.
yeah,
I'll share it. Yeah, no problem.
yeah. Awesome. Well, everybody, be sure and join me on Mondays for Karenisms. And we go over that's at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Central, or not Central, but Eastern time. It's been a long day already. Be sure to join me for Karenisms, and we just go over stories and jokes and things that have happened, and sometimes have lessons that we teach. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And then join me each week for Power Surge on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Mountain. Or why am I getting those times wrong, Holly? 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I will post when we have Holly's second show up. So be watching for the post and finding out when that's going to come up. And for all of you that joined this week, mwah, we love and appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and leave comments. Tell Holly how much you love and appreciate the wonderful things that she shared with us today. That being said, I'm going to say ciao for now. We'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you.